morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, honorable speakers, respected researchers, and beloved participants from around the world. Welcome to the first Papua International Conference on Biodiversity, Natural Sciences and Technology, or PICoBNST 2025.
It is truly an honor and a pleasure to have you all here today, both in person and virtually, joining us from various parts of Indonesia and abroad. This conference is proudly organized by the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Papua University, with the theme Integration and Innovative Science, Technology and Indigenous Knowledge, promoting conservation, biodiversity, and sustainable development in Papua for a resilient future.
Honorable delegates, as we begin this important occasion, let us stand together in unity and respect for the national anthem of Indonesia Raya, followed by the regional anthem Papua Pulau Indah. We respectfully invite all attendees
All attendants to please sit down.
Now, to officially open our conference, we are delighted to invite Mr. Dr. Richard Lawarisa as a Chief Executive to deliver the opening report. Please welcome Mr. Dr. Richard Lawarisa.
Report of the first Papua International Conference on Biodiversity, Natural Science and Technology, PICoBNST 2025 by Dr. Richard Lewerisa, Conference Chairs from Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Universitas Papua, Manokwari, West Papua, Indonesia. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rector of University Papua, Prof. Dr. Hugo Warami, Vice Rector, Dean of Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Universitas Papua, our co-host from IPB University, Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Cendrawasih University, and Sage University. Our respected keynote invited speaker from Indonesia and abroad, all participants, researchers, lecturer, student, and distinguished guests. It is truly great honor for me to stand before you this morning. First and foremost, praise and gratitude for Almighty God for His grace and blessing that have enabled to us gather here for the first Papua International Conference on Biodiversity, Natural Science, and Technology, PICoBNST 2025. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all participants joining both on-site and online. I would like to express my deep appreciation to everyone who has contributed to the success of the first international conference organized by Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Universitas Papua. Ladies and gentlemen, this event holds special significance as it a part of celebration of 25th anniversary of Universitas Papua, which will be commemorated on 3 November 2025. This moment represents not only an academic reflection, but also our shared commitment to strengthen Papua's role as a center for biodiversity research and scientific innovation in Eastern Indonesia. The main theme of this conference is integration of innovation, technology, and indigenous knowledge, promoting conservation, biodiversity, and sustainable development in Papua for a resilient future. This theme reflects our determination to integrate modern scientific innovation with indigenous knowledge and local wisdom to promote biodiversity conservation and sustainable development in Papua and beyond. Through this conference, the aim to provide a platform to exchange idea, research finding, and scientific experience across discipline, strengthens international research collaboration among academic, practitioner, and scientific, integrating scientific innovation and traditional knowledge for sustainable development, and produce high-quality scientific publication in collaboration with Bio Web or Conference indexed by Scopus. Ladies and gentlemen, we are truly honored by the participants that keynote and invited speaker from renewal institutions worldwide who have kindly shared their expertise to enrich our discussion. Thank you for keynote speaker, Dr. Jan Rina from Institute of Geophysics GIS, Czech Republic, Prof. Timothy F. Flannery from Australian Museum, Australia, Prof. C. Siu from University of Cincinnati, USA, and Prof. Dr. Khairul Anwar Noto Diputro from IPB University, Indonesia. And thanks to invited speaker, Dr. Skul Hocknell from CQ University, Australia, Dr. Eng Muhammad Aziz from University of Tokyo, Japan, Dr. Rohit Sharma from Sage University, India, and Dr. Marcos Irianto Langsa from Universitas Papua, Indonesia. They present not only provide invaluable scientific insight, but also strengthen the bridge of collaboration between Papua and the global scientific community. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, PICoBNST received more than 97 abstracts and more than 215 authors from 9 countries. Indonesia, Australia, India, Japan, the Netherlands, Algeria, United Arab Emirates, Russia, and United States. Approximately more than 7-8% to contribute came from Indonesia, research and academic. This reflects the strong enthusiasm of national scientific community for this international forum. We also record participants from over more than 38 institutions, include public and private university, national research institution, ASBRIN, and Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, government agency, and industrial sector, PT Freeport Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, this is diversity of participants demonstrate the powerful spirit of collaboration to advance science and technology root in rich Papua biodiversity. This conference was organized by University Papua, Universitas Papua, in collaboration with our co-host, IPB University, the Faculty Mathematics and Natural Science at Universitas Cendrawasih, and Sage University, with publication support from BioWeb of Conference friends. We are also great for support the Research and Community Service Institute of Universitas Papua and other national and international partners who contribute to this academic. Last, I wish to express my heartfelt appreciation to Rector of Universitas Papua, our keynote and invited speaker, reviewers, all participants, and especially to organizing committee for their hard work and dedication for this, to this conference. We hope that PICoBNST 2025 will become a sustainable annual scientific agenda, a bridge of knowledge between Papua and the world, and a meaning contribution for biodiversity, preparation, and sustainable development in Papua and global. We hope this conference inspire the advanced science and technology and humanity in this year to come. Thank you very much. Welcome to PICoBNST 2025, and I wish you all an inspiring and fruitful conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Richard Lowerisa, for your inspiring report.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is my honor to introduce the Dean of the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Mr. Marcus Herianto Langsa, PhD, who will deliver the speech. As the leader of one of the most prestigious faculties, Dean Mr. Marcus Herianto Langsa, PhD, has been instrumental in advancing academic excellence and fostering innovative research. Please join me in welcoming Dean Mr. Marcus Herianto Langsa, PhD, to the stage.
Thank you so much. Is my voice audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Rector of Papua University, represented by Vice Rector of Planning and Collaboration Matters, distinguished researchers, lecturers, colleagues, and guests. It is a true pleasure and honor to welcome you all to our first Papua International Conference on Biodiversity, Natural Sciences, and Technology. This moment is very special as this is not only our first international conference organized and run by our faculty, but also to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our university. I remember 3 years ago when we successfully organized a biology international seminar in collaboration with the Indonesian Biologist Consortium, and follow up after that, few months after that, we also successfully organized and run the national seminar or symposium on mathematics and natural sciences. And then some of the lecturers, some of the friends came to me and said, Mr. Dean, I think it's time for us now to ready for a real international conference. So here we are. We have done it. Congratulations. I can say that this is an excellent work, considering the number of participants as reported by the chair of the committee. So we received 97 abstracts, almost 100 abstracts, And this is achieved in less than 3 months of preparation. So this is really huge. This is possible because we can guarantee that the participants that selected papers will be published in high quality publication. As director, I want to emphasize that this conference is our faculty contribution to our university 25th anniversary celebration. The faculty has excellent and very competent lecturers doing the experts in biodiversity and the environment. So hopefully through this conference, we can strengthen our commitment to support sustainable development that respects and protects our natural resources and cultures while advancing science and technology for a better ecosystem and society. I would like to express my deepest appreciation to Mr. Rector and the leaders of the State University of Papua for their support and encouragement. My sincere thanks also go to our conference partners, IPB University, Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences of Cendrawasih University, and Saga University. I have to specifically mention these gentlemen, Professor Anuraga Jayanegara and Dr. Muhammad Fahrul Ulum from IPB University for their support and assistance to make this happen. I would like also to acknowledge our new partner from Saga University from India. We collaborated an international webinar in August as the beginning of our partnership, and we are looking forward to continuing our collaboration in the future. My special thanks to all organizing committee members who have worked tirelessly with passion and dedication to make this event a reality. Without your teamwork and support, this conference will not have been possible. And to our keynote invited speakers, Professor Tim Flannery from Royal Northern Institute of Technology, Australia, Dr. C.D. Neo from Department of Chemical and Environmental Sciences, University of Cincinnati, Ohio, USA, Jan Merlina, PhD from Czech Academy of Sciences, Czech Republic, Professor Dr. Hairil Anwar Notodiputro from IPB University, Dr. Scott Hocknall from Queensland University, Australia, Dr. Muhammad Aziz from University of Tokyo, Japan, and Dr. Rohit Sharma from Saga University, and to all participants. Thank you for being here and for sharing your valuable time, knowledge, and experiences. Your contribution will surely make this conference a vibrant space for learning, collaboration, and new ideas. Finally, I would like to invite Rector, represented by Vice Rector for Planning and Collaboration Matters, to give his welcoming speech and to open this conference formally. Again, welcome to everyone, and I wish you all productive and memorable conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus Herianto Langsa, PhD, for your speech.
This event stands as testament to our shared commitment to advancing knowledge, fostering cross-cultural collaboration, and addressing global challenges together. At this moment, in my distinct honor to invite the Vice Chancellor of the University of Papua, Mr. Dr. Yusuf Willem Sawaki, a visionary leader dedicated to academic excellence and community development, to deliver the opening and welcoming remarks, and also opening this conference by strike a tifa 3 times. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to the Vice Chancellor, Mr. Dr. Yusuf Willem Sawaki.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Uh, I'm standing here on behalf of the Rector of University of Papua to give an opening speech and also to officially open this conference. To our distinguished guests, academic leaders, respected government representations, if they are here, leading scientists, innovative technologies, and also community members or NGOs, our guests who are attending this conference. I would like to welcome you to this conference. I would like to give thanks and welcome all the keynote speakers, invited speakers, and also all general speakers and participants of this conference. Thank you for your contributions to participate in this conference. This conference give or bring several ideas or theme that I think is very essential, which are the integrations of innovative science, technology, and indigenous knowledge. All cover in the titles or theme of this conference, integrations of innovative science, technology, and indigenous knowledge, promoting conservation, biodiversity, sustainable development in Papua for resilient future. If you look to the theme or the globe, you see the Papua on map. You see the islands of Papua. It is a tapestry of immense, unparalleled natural wealth. It is home to roughly 5% of world biodiversity. And it's also cover a largest number of indigenous knowledge, indigenous languages on earth. It's the largest number of indigenous languages on earth, representing highly diverse indigenous knowledge of the people of Papua. Picturing this theme, it is not just a collection of plants and animals, I hope. Just not talking about plants and animals, but this is a living library maintained by hands and wisdom of its indigenous people for millennia. The ecological environment in Papua is home to hundreds of indigenous communities that value nature, develop their indigenous knowledge from their direct contact with the physical environments. These are the guardians who can name every vines, predict the rain cycles by the movement of stars, practice conservation not as a policy, but it is as a way of life. Yet, this natural library is burning these days. You see the climate changes, external pressure, and unsustainable development models that practice and give a threat to the environment. But I look at the title, there is a word called resilience. What is the meaning of resilience? The title gives us, it's not just a theme, but it is equal for a survival. And we are academic community have the responsible to see that. Indigenous knowledge plus science plus technology, it means resilience. We have to agree together that our purpose of coming here, is to move beyond simply acknowledge these three domains and instead commit to fuse them, integrated them into a single powerful strategy for Papuan future, for its nature, its people, and its cultural diversity. We are not here to debate which is more important, technology, science, or indigenous knowledge. But we are here to declare that none can success without the others. So three issues are equally important. Indigenous knowledge provides the deep, localized context and ethical framework. It tells us where to protect and how to live sustainably. Innovative science provides the diagnosis tools. It tells us what is happening to the ecosystem and why, from genetic mapping to climate modeling and so on and so on. Technology provides the scale on and accessibility. It gives us the platform and tools to monitor, connect, and empower every community, from drone mapping, for instance, to remote education platforms, and so on. Integrating these three themes is not easy. It requires humility, trust, and willingness to learn across three themes. Scientists must learn to ask research questions. We always deal with research questions informed by local reality, not just global agendas. So this conference, I hope that we talk about the local reality. It's not just global agendas. Technologies must design tools that are locally appropriate and accessible. With your knowledge, think about tools that locally appropriate and accessible, not just the latest gadget. And all of us must recognize the indigenous knowledge is intellectual property and must be respected, protected, shared only in terms of its owners, the Papuans. This conference is the necessary space where these three themes are discussed. The wisdom of the indigenous people, the rigor of research, your knowledge, and the inventions, the technology, can finally meet and flow forward together from now on. This is what our university aimed for, science for humanity. Over the next few days, 2 days, I think, I will challenge you to do more than network of listen. I challenge you to become a co-creators of the integrated path for science, technology, and indigenous knowledge. When you hear the Papuans ask, how can technology implies these ancient wisdoms, our knowledge, local knowledge? When you see the scientific data, you will ask, does this finding reflect the reality on the ground in local communities? And when you discuss the sustainable development, you may find questions. How can we ensure that the benefits of this progress flow directly to the custodians of the land, meaning the local community? Let us leave this conference not just with presentations and papers, but with concrete collaborative pilots that demonstrate the power of this unified approach. The three themes. We hold the future of Papua in our hand. Let us honor its incredible natural and cultural heritage by building a future that's truly realizes through sustainable and uniquely approach in Papua. Before I end my speech, I would like to thank different parties that contribute to this conference. First of all, I would like to thank you and appreciate the organizing committee led by Mr. Chairman. Let's give applause to them. Yeah, without their hard work, we cannot sit here for this conference. And we also, on behalf of the university leaders, I also would like to thank all the co-hosts of this conference, IPB University, Cendrawasih University, and Saga University. They have committed to making all this happen at the University of Papua. I really appreciate and honor their commitment and the collaborations. I would like also to express my gratitude to all speakers, keynote speakers, invited speakers, and also general speakers who sent their abstracts to make this conference happen. Without the abstracts, we cannot have this conference. I hope that this conference will provide opportunities for the University of Papua to develop its collaborations with other universities in order to increase its academic capacity and its national and international networks to have this university in the future as a leading university in the region. Well, I think that's all that I can say for this opening speech. And all respected guests, finally, on behalf of the Rector of University of Papua, today, this October 23rd, 2025, I will officially open this conference. Baik, saya bicara bahasa Indonesia, tadi bahasa Inggris terus jadi. Atas nama Rektor Universitas Papua, secara resmi saya membuka konferensi ini dengan memukul tifa ini. Tadi sudah dibilang 3 kali, jadi 3 kali saja, tidak pakai double-double. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Yusuf Willem Sawaki, for your warm welcome and for opening and leading this important initiative.
As we seek guidance and inspiration for the days ahead, let us take a moment to bow our heads in prayer. May we be granted wisdom, unity, and success throughout this conference. A prayer led by Mrs. Rosalina Merino. For Mrs. Rosalina Merino, you may take the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will pray in Christian religion. Others religions can adapt. Let's we pray. Father, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we glorify your name. We exalt your name. We honor your name. Please forgive us for all our sins. May you be pleased to hear our prayer. Father, we surrender the entire international conference that will take place over 2 days from October 23 to 24 into your hands. Bless everyone involved in this event. Grant us health and success. Bless all the committee members, our college, the university leadership, and the faculty leadership. Grant us understanding and harmonious cooperation so that your name may be glorified in all things. This is our prayer. In the name of the Lord Jesus, we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosalina Mirino.
This traditional dance is about the community has lived with nature and its traditions, managing their natural environment. The arrival of mining activities will destroy the nature and traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation. Through this dance, we hope that mining exploration activities will be in line with their tradition and customs. Now, it is our great pleasure to present a traditional dance performance, showcasing the rich cultural heritage of our region. Please join me in welcoming the performance to the stage. This traditional dance is presented by students of Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Papua University. The house where we give birth to our children. We do not illuminate the forest. We do not water the forest. We stand at the edge of the forest, satisfy our hunger without overeating, take what we need without causing damage. Our home forest, a gift from God.
Apakah tanda ini akhir neraka? Tak satu pun jiwa yang tahu. Banyak air mata yang telah mengucur menyaksikan bangsaku hancur, menghilangkan kandungku dan takkan kembali. Alam terdiam jadi saksi. Seandainya daku Panglima Sorgawi, kan ku pinta kepada Tuhan.
So much for student of the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science, Papua University.
Ladies and gentlemen, we reached the end of the opening ceremony. We would like to thank the audience for the participation, and we also apologize if there are words or actions that are less pleasing. That's all from us. Now, before we go to the next station, we have time for a break. For all guests, please have a break.
Thank you.
Sorry, maybe we can take a picture before the break. We would like to invite Mr. George Mantasan.
And also Mitras to come and take a picture together. Thank you so much.
To all participants, we can take a break. We have coffee outside. Ladies and gentlemen on virtual room, now we have a break and the next session we will start at 15, 9:15, I think. So please wait until the next session. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving on to one of the highlights today program, the keynote session. This session will feature distinguished scholars and experts who will share their insight on biodiversity, natural sciences, and technological innovations that support sustainable development, particularly in Papua and in the Pacific region. To moderate this session, we would like to invite Mrs. Dr. Rawati Panjaitan, who will guide us through this inspiring discussion. Please welcome Mrs. Dr. Rawati Panjaitan.
Okay, thank you for the committee. And then Professor Tim Flannery, are you hear my voice, please, clearly? Nanti tolong kasih saya untuk buka speaker. Oh, oh. Okay. Tim Flannery, Professor Tim Flannery. Can you hear me clearly? Hello, Professor Tim. I'm sorry, Professor, your Zoom really much. Oh, okay, nice. So you can hear me? Ah, okay, nice. I hope you remember me, all right?
Of course. Wait. I've just lost my connection. There we go. That's it. Perfect.
Okay, nice. Yeah, thank you, Professor Tim Flannery. So I'm Dr. Rawati Panjaitan, will guide this presentation and discussion for this session. So before it, I want to say my honorable to Papua University Rector and then his staff, and then my respected to keynote, all of them keynote speaker, deans and their staff from Mathematics and Science faculty, my respected to committee chair and then members, all of them, as well as distinguished presenter and participation, all of you. On this occasion, we'll hear a presentation from Professor Tim Flannery. Professor Tim Flannery from Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia, on the topic significance of the fossil crop in Australasian mammalian zoogeography. Before Professor Tim Flannery present, I would like to introduce Professor Tim Flannery to all of us. Professor Tim Flannery from Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia. He is on a mission. Professor Tim believes that human activity is drastically altering an Earth's climate, and that before too long, this change will have a devastating effect on life on this planet. Professor Tim Flannery wants to mobilize the social and political will to address this problem before it's too late. That's why Professor Tim Flannery write the Weather Makers, how man is changing the climate and what it means for life in Earth. List. Flannery tells the fascinating story of climate change over millions of years to help us understand the predicament we face today. In authoritative yet accessibility language, Professor Tim Flannery carefully lays out the science demonstrating the substantial human-induced climate change and the ecological effect to to the planet if this process continues. Professor Tim Flannery proposed a game plan to help and ultimately reverse this damaging trend. The Weather Makers has sold over 1 million copies worldwide and is proving to be one of the most pivotal and influential texts in our understanding of global warming. Professor Tim Flannery is the former director of the South Australian Museum and is currently a professor at Sydney Macquarie University. Professor Tim spent years as a professor of Australia Studies at Harvard, where he taught in the Department of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology. In 2002, he became the first environmentalist to deliver the Australia Day address to the nation. And in 2005, he was honored as Australian Humanist of the Year. And in 2007, he was named Australia of the Year. A regular contributor to the New York Review of Books, Professor Tim has also written by many books, including Ecological History of Australia. For example, they feature Eaters 1994 and North America in the Internal Frontier 1990. And then Professor Tim has made documentary series for the ABC, including two in 2020, 2002 and Can She Save the World 2017. As well as being a presenter in Coast Australia, now is 4 series. In 2006, Professor Tim co-founded the Copenhagen Climate Council and chaired the organization until 2010, advising governments and business and environmental policies. Professor Tim is a member of the Windward Group, is scientist, became Australia's first chief climate commissioner in 2011. And in 2013, founded the Climate Council to continue communicating authoritative climate change information to the Australian public. That's the conclude about Professor Tim, introduce and accomplishment. And now we'll be listen to a presentation by Professor Tim Flannery. Prof, time is yours.
Terima kasih banyak Wati, teman saya.
You're welcome.
Saya senang. Terima kasih. Rektor, dekan, guru besar, mahasiswa, dan tamu kehormatan. Selamat pagi. Terima kasih telah memilih saya untuk memberikan keynote pada kesempatan penting ini. Universitas Papua dengan cepat mendapatkan reputasi atas kerja dalam studi dan konservasi biodiversitas. Setelah pertama kali mengunjungi institusi Anda pada tahun 92, sudah 30 tahun lebih lalu, sebelum menjadi UNIPA. Begitu saya sekarang merasa seperti anggota keluarga UNIPA. Mohon maaf, tetapi saya akan memberi pidato saya dalam bahasa Inggris. Bahasa Indonesia saya tidak cukup baik untuk mengajar pelajaran teknis seperti ini. So I'll have to speak in English for my presentation, which I will try to share now.
Okay, Prof, we will share your presentation.
Thank you. This one is share. Good. Thank you. Let me just make it the proper form. There we go. So what I want to speak about this morning is the significance of the vocal crop to Australasian mammalian zoogeography. Before I became involved in climate science, I spent 30 years studying mammals in New Guinea and eastern Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and so forth. And I've come to realise that the Vogel Cop really is very, very important in terms of our understanding of mammal distributions and zoogeography across the entire region. Mammals have a very long history in Australia and New Guinea. And to understand their story, we have to begin at the very beginning, deep in the age of dinosaurs, nearly 130 million years ago. The story really begins with one of Australia's oldest mammals. It's a monotreme or an egg-laying mammal, like the echidnas and platypus. Its name is Teinolophus trussleri, and you see here an illustration of what we think the animal looked like. It's about 126 million years old, its fossils. They were found in southern Victoria in Australia. The animal was only about the size of a shrew, so kecil sekali. It was a probe feeder. It had a long snout, as you can see, probing in the echidna, Zaglossus, one of the iconic mammals of the Vogelkop. But unlike platypus and echidna, it had no electrosense. It was simply probe feeding, so it's a very ancient ancestor. So at the time that Teinolophus lived, Australia and the Vogelkop were much closer to the South Pole than they are today. I wonder if I can point. Can I use a pointer here? Maybe not, but for those of you who understand Australian geography a bit, you can see Victoria right down in the south of the continent. The fossils were found down there, and at the time that that little animal lived, that location was very close to the South Pole, so it would have had 3 months of darkness every year. As you can see from the map, there is an island in the area of what is today the Vogelkop. So it's a very ancient landmass. That part of the world where your university is established is a very old part of the Australian landmass. At the time that Teinolophus lived, there were no marsupials in Australia or New Guinea, no bats, no rodents. There was only monotremes. So we're talking about a very long time ago during the age of dinosaurs. So we think, based on this we have, that monotremes are the most ancient element of the Vogelkop fauna. The ancestors of the platypus and echidna separated 55 million years ago, or thereabouts, and it is thought that echidnas may have evolved on what is today the Vogelkop. We published that idea back in 2022. So it's likely that the Vogelkop has been above water as a landmass, probably initially as an island, although with some connections with Australia, for 50 million or more years. This is the living descendant of that little Teinolophus, that small shrew-like animal I showed you a few slides back. This is Babi Duri Moncong Panjang, sorry. It's the long-beaked echidna of Western New Guinea. It's the most ancient lineage of mammals on the Vogelkop and in New Guinea. And I think we should take it as a sort of an emblem, really, of how important the Vogelkop is and its fauna is in terms of biodiversity. And these are egg-laying mammals, by the way, and this particular species is only found in the west of New Guinea, centred on the Vogelkop. So if we go back to about, or advance now to about 45 million years ago, at this stage, Australia was beginning to separate from Antarctica and move northwards across the globe. So you can see here, this map 45 million years ago, there's 50 degrees south. So Australia was still a long way south, but had started to move. And it's a rapidly moving continent. In fact, Australia is moving across the globe at the rate that my hair used to grow when I had hair, which is pretty fast for a continent. So it's moving quickly into tropical latitudes, and the northern edge of Australia, instead of being a passive margin, and what that means is that it's a landmass slowly sinking into the ocean. As Australia moved forth, it became an active margin, and it started to sweep up pieces of oceanic crust, island arcs, and other rocks that led to what we see today, the very mountainous island of New Guinea. So the marsupials that are such a prominent feature of Australia and New Guinea's fauna today only arrived in Australia about 55 million years ago. They reached Australia by land, across Antarctica, from an origin point in South America. So you can understand from that that the climate was very, very different in times past. In fact, 55 million years ago, roughly, was a real high point in terms of global warmth, global warming. There were forests growing across Antarctica, and the land masses were still connected right across the south. So the first marsupials that arrived were very tiny little shrew-like creatures, but they rapidly diversified, and at some point, we still don't know exactly when, they arrived in New Guinea and gave rise to some of the very, very interesting marsupial species that we find in New Guinea today. Bats are another group that have a very ancient origin. They were present in Australia by 54 million years ago. We don't know where they came from. We have very few fossils, but we do know they were here for a very long time. So we can anticipate that as we study the bats of the Chiroptera of the island of New Guinea, we will be studying a group with very deep and ancient roots here in the Australia-New Guinea landmass. I want to now just move on to having a look at New Guinea as it evolved beginning around about 20 million years ago. I've focused in on the central part of New Guinea here just so you can see a bit more clearly. But the blue, all of these different coloured parts on the map represent proto-islands that emerged out of the ocean starting 20 million years ago or so, and have gradually grown until they have merged into the island of New Guinea today. The oldest of these land masses, of course, is the Vogelkop, where you see Manokwari is marked on the map there, UNIPA. That is at least 50 million years old as a land mass, and maybe very, very much older. The area marked here, the northern Cordillera in the same colour, that is really a much more recent landmass, starting maybe 3 million years ago, but it has had some continuous connection with the Vogelkop at some point in the past because it shares a lot of animal species in common. The Malkop block here in pink is another older block. It rose above the ocean waves, we think, maybe 12 million years ago, and built rapidly into very high mountains. By 6 million years ago, there were already mountains in that area several kilometres high, and by 4 million years ago, some of the mountains were probably almost as high as the mountains that exist today. So it's an old island, a high island, which has joined with the rest of New Guinea. We don't know exactly when, but in the last several million years. The yellow area to its east, the central block, is about maybe 8 to 10 million years old as an island. We find it very difficult to understand the central block. It has no endemic lineages of marsupials, so maybe it remained isolated for quite a long time. And you can see down in the southeast Papua block, a mystery, high levels of endemism of mammals, but how old is it? How did they get there? How long have they been there? These are questions we can't answer at the moment. So just to move on to the final group of mammals that we find in New Guinea, these are the murids, the rats and mice. They arrived from Asia around 4 million years ago. Maybe that's between 3 and 6 million. We say approximately 4, but we don't have a very clear idea of exactly when they arrived. There are many questions about the native rodents here, and you see the animal in the picture is a water rat. It's a really iconic New Guinea Australian one of the ancient lineages of murids. But we don't know, do the New Guinean and Australian murids represent separate radiations derived quite separately from Asia? Or are they part of a single lineage that perhaps first got into New Guinea and then came to Australia? We don't have answers to that question. But we do know that there was at least 2 separate invasions of rodents or murids into the island of New Guinea and Australia. The older radiation are the hydromyine rodents, of which the water rat is a good example, that arrived maybe 4 million years ago. And then we have the ratini, which are more like the rats that you find around houses and in the bush in parts of New Guinea. They probably arrived about 1 million years ago. One of the mysteries about the rodents of our part of the world is that there are so many morphotypes of rodents. In other words, the body form of rodents is so much more diverse in New Guinea than it is in Australia. Why is that? Maybe some smart student from UNIPA will be able to answer that question in future. It would be a great PhD topic. So I just want to now focus more closely on the vogelkop and give you a sense of what we are starting to discover as we investigate your part of the world a bit more closely. And I should say here, I'm working with very dear colleagues from UNIPA, from BRIN, and from Australia and other parts of the world on this larger project. So here is the vogelkop. It's, as we've said, an ancient microcontinent. Because it's on the leading edge of the Australian plate, it is experiencing, I should say, massive geological forces which are rotating that continental block and deforming it, changing it in ways we don't see on a much more stable Australian continent. But the rocks here are certainly still part of the Australian plate. I just want to say that as we investigate and document the mammals of the vogelkop, so many mysteries remain. There's a lot of work to be done before we fully understand what we're looking at. And here is one mystery. So in 1999, an Australian researcher who was analysing archaeological material from the Ayamaru Lakes area published on this tiny fragment of a jaw. You can see the scale bar there, 5 millimetres. It's a tiny fragment. And yet the researcher made some very big claims about this jawbone. He claimed it was from a kind of animal that was previously unknown in all of New Guinea. And I'll show you what that animal was. He claimed that it was a relative of this animal here, Australia's greater glider. Up to that point, this lineage of animals, the greater gliders and their relatives, were completely unknown from New Guinea. So based on that tiny jaw fragment, people weren't very convinced. They thought maybe he'd made a mistake. We, however, have been investigating that jaw fragment and following up on what he found, and we have discovered that in fact he was right. You can see here an image sent by a worker in Indonesia of an animal found back in 2002, which is in fact the same species as that little jaw fragment. It's it has a name, it's Amaruensis, but it belongs in a genus which is yet to be named. Here is a juvenile of the same species, very cute little animal, but it's amazing to think we can find species like this still in the Vogelkop, which are undocumented as living animals. In September 2024, with the help of UNIPA researchers and AXA, who I think is probably in the audience, Axamina Johannita, is a big part of this story. She travelled to Mysol Island and worked with local people. Some months later, one of the people she worked with, the image we have of an adult of this previously unknown mammal, or unknown as a living mammal, that is. So we are gradually tracking down at least some of the unknown biodiversity of the Vogelkop. Of course, the local people of the region know this animal quite well. In the Maybrat area, it is known as Taus. They say that it inhabits tree hollows from the tallest and most valuable timber trees in the region, which means it is vulnerable to habitat destruction through logging. They say it lives in pairs, it's monogamous. It raises only one young per year, so it's slow at reproducing and therefore again vulnerable to logging particularly. They say it eats tree sap, among other things. And among the Maybrat people, they believe that the animal should not be harmed because it's important in male initiation. Now, why is it important? The men tell me that when they have the young boys coming up to be initiated and made into men, they point to this animal, this Taus, and say, you should be like this animal. Just stick with one woman. Just have a small family and really look after that family, just like Taus does. So it's a very good example for the local people of how to live your life properly. We are currently researching this animal in this region of the Vogelkop, which is Tambrau Regency and Maybrat area. This is another image of just where we're looking for this animal at the moment, and I'll show you some habitat shots. So this is the sort of habitat that we think is pretty important for this animal. These gigantic forest trees, where it can find shelters in hollows among the oldest trees and glide from those trees to its food sources. So this is a work in progress I'm reporting on here. We still have only the sketchiest understanding of the animal. We're still trying to locate individuals in this area, but it gives you a sense of why these forests, why it's so important to protect the remaining forests of the Vogelkop, the remaining unlogged forests, because this animal, Taus, is not found in the rest of New Guinea. It seems to only be in the Vogelkop. While we were searching for Taus, we made some other very surprising discoveries. This small possum here was unknown as a living animal until members of our team encountered it. But it was known as a fossil from Australia, so 280,000-year-old fossils. The teeth appear very similar to the teeth of this animal. So what are we seeing here? Maybe one takeaway lesson is that the Vogelkop area has acted as a refuge for species which have become extinct in Australia as a result of climate change. I just want you to note the fingers of this strange-looking possum. See how long one of the digits are? It uses that digit to hook grubs, that tree-boring grubs, and pull them out of the in timber and eat, and that's what they live on. That's how they make a living and eat their food. Another of the really interesting iconic mammals of the Vogelkop area are the tree kangaroos. And we think the greatest diversity of tree kangaroos anywhere on the planet may well be in the Vogelkop area. And you see here 2 of the 4 kinds of tree kangaroos which live in the Vogelkop region. On the left, we have the grizzled tree kangaroo. We have found fossils of species that look a bit like that from Australia. On the right, we see the Vogelkop tree kangaroo, which is about half the size of the grizzled tree kangaroo. And again, we've found fossils in Australia rather resembling this animal. So it may be that these are also relic species that have become extinct in Australia, but somehow survived on the Vogelkop. Of course, these large mammals are vulnerable to hunting. So forest protection is really important in terms of maintaining populations of these larger mammals. I should point out as well that these tree kangaroos, they are ancient members of the kangaroo family. The earliest fossils that we have go back some millions of years, but genetic studies reveal that the tree kangaroos split off from the terrestrial kangaroos at least 8 million years ago. So there's a long separate history for these animals, both in Australia and New Guinea. Just want to turn to a much more abundant kangaroo, the Dorcopsis wallabies. These animals they have several distinguishing features. The first is that the very first mammal ever described from the island of New Guinea was a Dorcopsis wallaby like this, which was described in 1825 by 2 French biologists who were visiting the Manokwari area. So that's quite interesting from a history of science perspective, that New Guinean mammalogy began in Manokwari exactly 200 years ago to this year, right in Manokwari where UNIPA is today. These wallabies, however, they are a very ancient member of the kangaroo family, and you can see the way the tail of that animal is held, very unlike most of the other members of the kangaroo family. We don't understand as yet why the tail is held in that particular way. Maybe the locomotion of this animal is rather peculiar, and maybe it represents a phase in the locomotory history of kangaroos that has been lost in other living members of the kangaroo family. There's almost no fossil record of these Dorcopsis wallabies in Australia, but genetic studies reveal that they are a very ancient member of the New Guinean Australian fauna. This brown Dorcopsis, which you can find right through the Vogelkop, seems to have arrived in the Vogelkop separately from the other kinds of Dorcopsis in New Guinea. It must have arrived from Australia at some point over the last 7 million years, although we have almost no data as to exactly when or how it arrived in New Guinea. It's a very common animal. It remains common despite high hunting pressure, and I think it deserves quite a lot more study. Perhaps again there's some students at UNIPA who would be interested in these wallabies, in documenting some aspect of their biology, their reproduction, their ecology. It will be very, very useful to know more about them. Another group of animals that has received a little bit more attention are the spotted cuscusses, Spilocuscus. They're common throughout the lowlands of New Guinea. We think that they may actually have originated in the Vogelkop area. And the reason we say that is because the greatest diversity of Spilocuscus species is found on the Vogelkop and in surrounding islands. And that's some reason for thinking that they originated there. They're such distinctive possums. You can look at the cat-like pupil on the eyes, the brightly coloured fur. They're distinctive in so very many ways. Again, they deserve more study. There has been some work done. I know AXA has completed a PhD on coat colour morphology, and congratulations, AXA, on passing in the last few weeks, I believe. Very, very well deserved. But we should encourage some more students to look at other aspects of the biology of the Spilocuscus species of the Vogelkop. They are very strange animals and very poorly understood. Just show you a little video here of one other member of the Vogelkop mammal fauna. These very cute little, cute little animals are ring-tailed possums from the Vogelkop. Again, very, very, very poorly studied and understood. So that's just a bit of a sense of what the fauna is like, some of the questions that we need to answer. So how will we go about trying to investigate the fauna, mammal fauna, particularly of the Vogelkop, further? We need more fauna surveys, that is for sure. We are barely, we just don't have a good understanding of the distribution or even composition of the mammal fauna of the Vogelkop. And those surveys, they must involve local landowners who know more about the fauna than anyone else. They must involve Papuan academics, and it would be good if we can also integrate international expertise. So this volume here, you can see on Maluku, is a very good template for the kind of work that we need to do in future as we go forward. I want to now end with some challenges for the students and others in the audience, and start with a shocking truth. We have no pre-human fossil record of mammals from the Vogelkop. Can you believe that? Such an interesting part of the world with so many really great questions for zoogeography in general, and yet we have no fossil record to guide us. I am sure that within 200 kilometres of where you people are sitting today are many, many hundreds of incredible fossils that will tell us a lot about the history of the mammals of the Vogelkop. Yet no one has gone out there yet with a systematic survey to try to find those fossils and describe them. I really hope that staff and students of UNIPA will take up the challenge and play a key role in finding the first mammal fossils from the Vogelkop. And I can assure you that whoever does that will find themselves as the author of a very, very prominent scientific paper somewhere in a very prestigious journal. Because whatever you find, it's going to be extremely interesting. So just to wrap up, the key challenges we face as we try to investigate further the mammals of the Vogelkop area and New Guinea are these. We need to understand how and when New Guinea's mammals arrived to the island of New Guinea, how they spread and colonised their current distributions. There are so many unknowns here. We see very, very strange distributions of mammals in New Guinea, where some species are restricted only to the lowlands, others only to the highlands, some only the western part of the island, some only in the east, some just on certain mountain ranges. There is a whole world of discovery to be made there by people in Papua today that would be extremely valuable in terms of the science, both the science of zoogeography and the science of mammalogy. The second point I just want to reinforce, the fossil record of mammals in the Vogelkop is completely unknown. It's got to be one of the only parts of the world where this is true. I personally have found fossils in the Baleen Valley area. There are other fossils from Jayapura. There are plenty of fossils from Papua New Guinea, but not one single mammal fossil from the Vogelkop. If one thing was going to change, I would love to change that, because we will start, once we start finding those fossils, start understanding the deep history of mammals in this region. We need, as a third point, to document the full diversity of Vogelkop mammals. Here we are still discovering mammal species in 2025 that have not been known as living organisms. So when the diversity is not completely known, so much else remains unknown. We need to continue doing those fauna surveys, filling out our understanding of that diversity and then building on that, so we can investigate the ecology of animals. Once we understand the diversity, we can really then zero in on some of the other interesting questions, such as ecology, how endangered they are, what their full distributions are, what their rates of reproduction are. There are so many things we can do once we understand that diversity, but the first challenge is to discover all of the mammals, to make sure we have a full accounting, full reckoning of the mammal fauna of this extremely interesting part of the world. Finally, we need to act to protect the mammals of the Vogelkop. As you know, your part of the world is developing very rapidly. And that's a good thing for people. We all need economic development. We need a sustainable pathway to a better future. But that can be established at the same time we protect our biodiversity. The key deficit there is to know what mammals and what the biodiversity is like in any one region, and how vulnerable it is to particular kinds of threat. So we are still a very, very long way from that understanding at the moment, and what that tragically means is that development can threaten biodiversity. Until we have the science, until we have the understanding, we cannot do a good job of protecting the unique biodiversity assets of Papua. Now, I've left my talk just a little bit short because I presume there was time for questions. Wati, am I correct in that? Yeah. I'm happy to answer some questions if there are any from the audience.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Professor Tim. And now, before we time for discussion, I just want to say if the landscape of Vogelkop, it's important to ecosystem and then to biodiversity of mammals, and especially mammals because a lot of endemic species. Yeah, but now we know that that it's really important. Yeah, thank you for audience with the online in room Zoom or with live. So maybe if you have a question or suggestion, it's time to use. Yeah, please Ibu Ranti. So maybe committee, please you give the mic.
Thank you, moderator.
Yep.
Hi, Prof. Flannery. I am from Universitas Papua, Biology Department. I have question. As we know, mammalias in Papua, they are solitary and nocturnal animals. And as we know, the number of them is decreasing. So we don't have information, biology data about reproduction. Could you tell us about the reproduction, sir? And then why mammals that live on islands different in size and color pattern from mammals that live on land? Thank you.
Yeah, that's the question, Ibu Ranti. Professor Tim, maybe you can please you ask.
Terima kasih banyak Ibu Ranti untuk tanyanya itu. I could just say mammals are very hard to study. As you say, they are solitary, they're nocturnal, and if you want an easy life, don't become a mammalogist. No, study birds, because my colleagues who study birds can lay in their sleeping bag in the morning while I'm making some coffee for them and just listen. And they hear the calls of birds, and all of a sudden they have half of the fauna there before they've had their morning coffee. Me, as a mammalogist, I'm up half the night in the mud, being bitten by mosquitoes with a torch, looking, searching for one sighting of a mammal. It sometimes takes me months to get even half of the mammals in an area surveyed. So it is really difficult, really hard life, you're quite correct. And that leads to a knowledge deficit, as you say. The only way we can address that knowledge deficit really is to encourage students, particularly brave ones, the really good ones who are very tough, to get out there and continue surveying mammals. In terms of reproduction, I can only give you a few examples, really. So take the long-beaked echidna, the most interesting mammal from your part of the world, from the Vogelkop. No one has ever seen a young long-beaked echidna. Maybe local people have, but no scientist has. So that's how much we know about reproduction. No one's even seen an immature one. So that tells you that there's... No one has even seen a long-beaked echidna egg. We think they must exist because short-beaked echidnas lay eggs.